The boy's tiny feet were bare, his toes numb against the damp soil, his breath shaky as the cold air bit into his chest. The forest loomed around him like a prison, tall shadows stretching in every direction, whispering with every gust of wind. He had never felt so small, so unwanted, so forgotten. Only hours ago, he had clung to the faint hope that maybe, just maybe, his stepmother's voice carried some softness for him. But the moment she pulled the car to the side of the dirt road, dragged him out, and drove away without looking back, he understood the truth. He wasn't wanted. He tried calling out at first, his fragile voice echoing in the emptiness. But no one answered. The birds rustled overhead, and the trees stood silent as if they too had turned their backs. The little boy, no more than 7, hugged his knees, tears streaking through the dirt on his cheeks. Fear wrapped itself around him tighter than the night air. He whispered the only word that ever brought him comfort, "Dad." But his father was gone too soon, and all that was left was the cruelty of the woman who had vowed to care for him. As the hours dragged on, the boy's hunger gnawed at his stomach, his body shivering in exhaustion. He curled near a fallen log, too tired to cry any more. He thought this might be where his story ended. Alone in the woods, a forgotten child whose laughter had once filled a home that no longer existed. But fate has a way of writing miracles in the darkest chapters. Headlights pierced the gloom. A sleek black car hummed slowly along the narrow path, its driver searching for a shortcut he rarely used. Inside sat a man whose face the world often recognized from magazines and business headlines. A millionaire known not just for his success, but for his relentless discipline, his stern demeanor, his towering presence. Yet behind that sharp exterior was a heart that had been scarred by loneliness. He wasn't looking for anyone that night. He wasn't searching for hope. He was simply on his way back from yet another business meeting, weary of contracts, tired of pretending that wealth filled the hollows of his soul. Then he saw something, a small figure huddled against the side of the road, shivering. At first he thought it was an animal, but when he stepped out, and the headlights revealed a boy's fragile frame, his heart clenched in a way it hadn't in years. "Hey." His voice softened, almost breaking as he knelt down. "What are you doing out here, son?" The boy lifted his head, eyes wide and swollen from crying. He wanted to speak, but only silence came out, his lips trembling, his voice stolen by fear. The man took off his coat, wrapped it around the boy's shoulders, and without thinking twice, lifted him gently into his arms. For reasons he couldn't explain, it felt right, natural, as if the boy belonged there. The drive back was quiet. The boy nestled into the warm leather seat, still too weak to ask questions. At his mansion, the millionaire ordered food, blankets, and called his private doctor to check on the child. When the boy finally found the courage to whisper his name, the man froze. He had heard that name before, long ago. It was the name of his closest friend, the friend he had once sworn brotherhood with, the one who had stood by him when he had nothing, the one he had lost touch with after tragedy struck. His heart thundered as he pieced it together. This wasn't just any child. This was his friend's son, the son of the man who had once saved his life in more ways than one. The realization knocked the air out of him. His chest ached with a mixture of grief, guilt, and overwhelming tenderness. He had all the money in the world, yet here was his friend's son abandoned in the woods, carrying the weight of a cruelty he did not deserve. From that moment, everything changed. He didn't see the boy as a burden. He didn't see him as a responsibility. He saw him as a promise, an unspoken vow to honor his friend's memory. Nights that once felt empty now echoed with laughter. Mornings that used to begin with silence now carried the soft sound of footsteps racing through hallways. The mansion, once cold and hollow, began to feel like a home, and the boy, once fragile and hopeless, started to bloom under kindness. His laughter returned, his eyes sparkled again, and for the first time since losing his father, he felt safe. But the greatest change wasn't in the child. It was in the man who had found him. The millionaire, who once thought riches were enough, discovered a wealth greater than any fortune, a second chance at family, at love, at life itself. And in quiet moments when the boy would hold his hand tightly, the man often looked up at the stars and whispered to his late friend, "I found him, I've got him, I won't let him go." The boy thought the forest was cruel, but the cruelty had started long before that night. His stepmother, a woman with sharp eyes and a colder heart, had always seen him as a burden. To her, he was a reminder of a man she never truly loved. His late father, who had left behind nothing but debts and a son who needed care. She despised the way the boy looked so much like him, the way his laugh carried echoes of the man she had lost too soon. Every meal she gave him felt like an obligation, every glance a punishment. It began with harsh words. "You're worthless. Your father left me with nothing but you," she would sneer, snatching away his plate before he had finished eating. She locked him in his room for hours, sometimes days, leaving him to stare at the walls, whispering to himself to stay strong. His tiny hands often rubbed his chest when hunger gnawed at him, his tears drying before anyone cared enough to notice. But cruelty has no limits when love is absent. On cold nights, she would throw him outside barefoot, muttering, "If you freeze, it's no loss." Neighbors sometimes heard him crying but never dared to interfere, for she carried herself like a woman no one could challenge. And then came the worst night of all, the night she drove him deep into the woods under the pretense of a little trip. The boy's heart lifted when she said they were going out, thinking maybe, finally, she wanted to spend time with him. He had no idea it was his farewell. When she stopped the car and ordered him out, he thought maybe they were picking flowers or watching stars. But the way she slammed the door and sped away crushed even his fragile hope. The boy chased the car until his legs gave out, screaming for her to come back. All he could taste was dust in his mouth and betrayal in his heart. That was how he ended up curled in the dirt, believing he wasn't worth saving. But fate had other plans. The millionaire who found him trembling and silent did not just offer warmth. He offered a chance to belong again. In the beginning, the boy flinched at kindness. He hid food under his pillow, fearing it would be taken away. He woke up in the night, expecting to be locked in. But the man, patient and gentle, never once raised his voice, never once let him go hungry. Slowly, the boy began to trust. The millionaire learned about the stepmother, about her cruelty. Rage burned in him, but he held it back, knowing that love was the only way to erase such scars. He promised the boy, "You'll never be left alone again. Not while I'm breathing." Time healed them both. The mansion, once echoing with silence, now filled with the sound of bedtime stories, the clatter of little shoes running across marble floors, and the boy's laughter bouncing off every wall. The man who thought money was his greatest treasure discovered that the greatest wealth was the hand of a child holding his. The trust in a pair of innocent eyes looking up at him as though he was the whole world. And one evening, as the sun set behind the hills, painting the sky in shades of gold, the boy whispered something that brought tears to the man's eyes. He tugged his sleeve, smiled softly, and said, "Can I call you Dad?" The millionaire bent down, pulled him close, and answered through a trembling voice, "You already have, son." From that day forward, the shadows of cruelty were replaced by the warmth of love, and the little boy who was once abandoned in the woods finally found where he truly belonged, home.